For as long as I could remember, I blended into the background. I wasn't shy in the way that people assumed I was too afraid to speak. I just never had a reason to. At Lincoln High, people already had their groups. The cheerleaders ruled the cafeteria, the basketball guys got away with skipping class, and the theater kids sang in the hallways like they were on Broadway. I was none of those things. Most days, I walked through the halls clutching my books to my chest, earbuds in, pretending not to notice when people laughed about my thrift store clothes or whispered when I passed. I had learned a long time ago that if I didn't give them a reaction, they would get bored. The only person who made those long days bearable was Amber, my best friend since third grade. We'd met in the library, both hiding from recess. She was loud, confident, and the complete opposite of me. Somehow, we worked. She talked, I listened. She made plans, I followed. She was the one person I could count on to save me a seat at lunch and walk home with me every day. But even with Amber, there was always this unspoken thing between us. She liked being the center of attention, and I was happy to stay in the shadows. I didn't realize back then that sometimes, when the person in the shadows starts stepping into the light, the one in the spotlight doesn't like it very much. Music had always been my secret. My mom said I learned to hum before I could talk. We didn't have much, just a second-hand upright piano someone was throwing away, but it was my world. Every night, after homework and chores, I'd sit there and play until my fingers ached. I never performed for anyone except my mom, and even she didn't know how much I dreamed about standing on a stage one day. When I played, it felt like the rest of the world melted away. The clicks, the whispers, the pitying looks from teachers, all of it faded into the background, replaced by the notes flowing through me. It was the only time I felt more. That dream felt like something meant for other people, people who were prettier, louder, more noticeable. Until one Monday morning, the school's loudspeaker announced something that made my heart skip. Attention students, sign-ups for the annual Lincoln High Talent Show are now open. Whether you sing, dance, juggle, or tell jokes, this is your time to shine. The announcement was followed by a few claps and whistles from somewhere in the cafeteria, but most people went back to eating. I, however, felt my pulse quicken. Amber immediately turned to me, eyes bright. We should totally do it. I could sing, and you could. I don't know, play the piano or something. We'd kill it. I smiled politely, but inside, my chest tightened. This was it. The chance I'd been waiting for my entire life. The only problem was, I didn't want to be a background act in someone else's performance. I wanted to stand alone. The rest of the day, I was somewhere else entirely. In history class, I imagined the stage lights on my face. In chemistry, I pictured the hush of the audience before the first note. In the cafeteria, I imagined my name on the sign-up sheet in bold black ink. That afternoon, when Amber went to the vending machine, I slipped away and wrote my name down. Just my name. No duet. No hiding. I should have told her right away. I should have been honest. But something in me wanted to keep it mine for a little while longer, like a spark I wasn't ready to expose to the wind just yet. When I got home, I told my mom. She stared at me like I'd just told her I'd been accepted into NASA. You're finally doing it? She asked, her voice soft with pride. Yeah, I said, trying to sound casual, but my cheeks hurt from smiling. She hugged me tight. You've been hiding that voice for too long. They're not ready for you. That night, I sat at the piano, playing the same song over and over until the house was dark and the streetlights outside cast a golden glow through my bedroom curtains. I wasn't sure if I was nervous or excited, but for the first time in years, I felt like maybe I wasn't just the quiet girl anymore. I was someone with a voice. Someone worth noticing. But I had no idea that my decision, this one small leap towards something I'd wanted forever, would be the very thing that would start pulling apart the only friendship I'd ever trusted. And I didn't know yet just how far Amber would go to make sure I never stepped into the light without her. The next morning at school, the hallways buzzed with talk about the talent show. People were already forming groups, practicing in corners between classes, and claiming spots on the sign-up sheet before it filled up. Amber was in her element. She'd been telling everyone she was going to blow them away with her voice. She wasn't lying, Amber could sing. Her voice was strong and bright, the kind of voice that could win over a crowd even if she sang the alphabet. We were standing at her locker between second and third period when she turned to me and said, "Okay, so I was thinking we could do Shallow from A Star Is Born. You'd play piano, and I'll sing. It'll be perfect." Everyone loves that song. I froze. "Amber, I actually signed up already." Her face lit up for half a second, until I added, "Just me. Solo." The brightness faded, replaced by something I couldn't quite name. "Oh, okay. Cool. I didn't know you wanted to, do it alone." My stomach twisted. "It's just, I've been working on something for a while. I wanted to try it." She shut her locker door a little too hard. "Right. Sure. Totally fine." But the way she smiled didn't feel fine. It felt tight, like she was holding back words she didn't want to say in the middle of the hallway. By lunch, I could feel the air between us changing. Normally, she'd wave me over the second she spotted me. This time, she was already sitting with a group of theater kids, laughing at something one of them said. She motioned for me to join, but I could tell by the way they all looked at me, half curious, half dismissive, that I was intruding. I picked up my sandwich while they talked about costume ideas and light cues for their skit. Amber didn't mention the talent show to me at all. Not once. After school, she caught up to me in the parking lot. "Hey, so, I was thinking, maybe I could help you with your performance? You know, give you tips, help you pick an outfit, that kind of thing." I hesitated. I appreciate it, but I kind of wanted to figure it out myself. Her smile twitched. "Of course. Totally get it. You've never really been on stage before." "I mean, I have a lot of experience. But okay." She waved like it was nothing, but I saw the way her jaw clenched before she turned away. That night, I practiced until my fingers ached. My song, an original I'd been writing for months, was starting to come together. It was personal, raw, and maybe too vulnerable. But that was the point. I wanted them to hear me. Really hear me. The next few days, Amber started acting different. She'd still talk to me, but it felt like she was keeping score in her head. Every time I mentioned rehearsing, she'd respond with a story about her own talent show prep. How many compliments she got during practice, how the music teacher told her she was a natural performer. By Friday, the sign-up list was posted in the main hallway, and I noticed something that made my stomach sink. Right under my name, Lena Parker, piano/vocals original song, was hers. But instead of singing, she'd written pop medley with surprise ending. When I caught her by the lockers, I tried to sound casual. "So, you're doing your own act too?" She shrugged, a little too casually. "Yeah." I figured, why not? The more the merrier, right? Something in her tone made me uneasy. But I told myself I was overthinking it. That weekend, my mom helped me pick an outfit, simple, elegant, nothing flashy. She also gave me a piece of advice that stuck with me. The people who clap the loudest for you in public aren't always the ones who cheer for you in private. Remember that. I didn't know why, but it made my chest feel heavy. On Monday, everything shifted again. I walked into school and felt eyes on me. Whispers followed me down the hallway. At first, I thought I had something on my face. But then, a girl from my math class leaned in and said, "I didn't know you were doing that song." "That's bold." "What song?" I asked. She raised an eyebrow. "The Adele one. Amber told everyone you were changing your act to do Easy on Me." My stomach dropped. "I'm not. I'm doing my own song." She looked confused. "Oh, weird." She said she helped you pick it. That afternoon, I found Amber by the vending machines. "Why are people saying I'm doing an Adele song?" She gave me that same too bright smile. "Oh, I just mentioned it might be a good idea, and maybe they misunderstood. Relax, Lena. It's not a big deal. But it was a big deal. I'd worked for months on my song, and now people were expecting something completely different. That night, as I sat at the piano, I felt something new doubt. What if my original song wasn't good enough? What if everyone compared me to her? What if she knew exactly what she was doing? I shook my head, forcing myself to keep playing. I had to focus. I couldn't let this get in my head. But deep down, I knew something had cracked. The girl who'd once been my safe place, my biggest cheerleader, was starting to look a lot like someone I'd have to compete against. And the worst part? The talent show was still 2 weeks away. By the next week, I could feel the tension curling tighter, like a rope pulling between us that might snap at any moment. Amber wasn't just doing her own act. She was talking about it constantly, loudly, in every hallway, with every group of people she could find. And almost every time, she found a way to mention me too. Oh, Lena's doing a song too. It's so cute, like this slow, emotional thing. Mine's totally different though, way more upbeat. People will be on their feet for mine. She'd laugh when she said it, like it was all in good fun. But the way her friends would glance at me afterward made it feel like the joke was on me. I tried to brush it off. I kept telling myself we were friends, that she didn't mean anything by it. But then, the little things started happening. The first was in the music room. I'd reserved a practice slot after school, something I'd signed up for weeks in advance. But when I got there, Amber was already sitting at the piano, surrounded by 3 of her theater friends. Hey, she said with that too bright smile. We're just running through my medley real quick. You don't mind, do you? We'll be done in, 15 minutes. 15 turned into 30. By the time they were done, the janitor was locking up the room, and I had to go home without practicing a single note. The second thing happened the very next day. I walked into the cafeteria and heard my name again. Only this time, it wasn't a conversation. It was coming from Amber herself, standing on a chair in the middle of the lunchroom like she was hosting her own talk show. And Lena's doing this really sad breakup song. But you know what's funny? She's never even had a boyfriend. Laughter rippled through the tables. My face burned, and I wanted to disappear. She waved me over with a grin, as if she'd just paid me the highest compliment. After that, I started hearing other rumors. That I was only doing the talent show because I wanted to copy her. That my mom had begged the judges to give me a slot. That I'd stolen my song from some indie artist online. I tried to ignore it, but every whisper felt like a splinter under my skin. One night, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my lyrics. My mom noticed my silence and put down the dish towel. Talk to me, she said gently. It's Amber, I admitted. She's different. She keeps making these comments, and now people think my song isn't even mine. I don't understand why she's doing this. Mom sighed. Sweetheart, some people only like you when you stay in a place that makes them comfortable. The second you step out of it, they feel threatened. I swallowed hard. But she's my best friend. Then ask yourself, Mom said, does she want the best for you or the best for herself? I didn't have an answer. By the end of that week, things hit a new low. I was in the music room again, finally getting in some practice time, when I realized my sheet music was missing from my folder. I checked my locker, my bag, nothing. Panicked, I retraced my steps, and when I passed by Amber's group, I froze. My sheet music was sitting right there on the table in front of her. Amber, I said slowly. That's mine. She glanced at it, then back at me. Oh, is it? I found it lying around. I was just curious. I reached for it, but she pulled it back a little before handing it over. You should probably keep better track of your stuff, she added with a smirk. Something in me snapped that day. That night, I locked my lyrics in my desk drawer and started practicing at home only. I even stopped talking about my song to anyone, not even to the few acquaintances who seemed genuinely curious. I thought maybe, if I kept my head down, she'd lose interest in whatever game she was playing. But then came the rehearsal schedule. Each act got one final run-through on stage a week before the show. My slot was Tuesday at 4:30. On Monday morning, I overheard Amber telling someone, "Oh, Lena's rehearsing at 3:30 today. I might pop in and watch." Except, I wasn't. And when I showed up at my actual rehearsal time, the stage manager looked annoyed. "We called your name an hour ago. You missed it." My stomach dropped. But my time was. "Sorry," she said, already moving on to the next act. "No reschedules. You'll just have to wing it the night of." I stood there in the wings, watching Amber on stage, owning the crowd during her run-through, and for the first time, I felt something sharper than hurt. I felt angry. Not just at her, but at myself, for letting her get away with it. For letting her turn my dream into something I dreaded. That night, as I sat at my piano, I decided something. I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to hide. If she wanted to play games, fine. But on that stage, in front of the entire school, I was going to make sure they heard me. And if she thought she could ruin this for me, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. The night of the Lincoln High Talent Show felt like the air itself was electric. Even walking up the school's front steps, I could hear the buzz of voices inside. The lobby was packed with students, parents, and teachers. Posters covered the walls, and my name was printed in bold on the program. Lena Parker, piano/vocals original song. It should have been the proudest moment of my life. Instead, my stomach was in knots. Backstage was chaos. Performers were warming up, adjusting costumes, checking microphones. The smell of hairspray and sweat filled the air. The stage crew whispered cues into headsets, and the theater kids flitted around like they'd been born there. Amber, of course, looked like she was about to headline Madison Square Garden. Her hair was curled to perfection, her sequin dress caught the light, and she had a little crowd of admirers laughing at everything she said. When her eyes met mine, she smiled. "Break a leg tonight, Lena," she said sweetly. "I mean that. I really do." I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have words, but because I knew if I opened my mouth, they wouldn't be polite. I set my sheet music on the piano bench and double-checked the mic stand height. That's when I noticed something that made my blood run cold. My sheet music wasn't my sheet music. The pages looked similar, but when I scanned them, I realized they were blank in certain places. Whole sections of lyrics were missing. Some chords had been altered completely. If I played from these pages, my song would fall apart halfway through. My hands started to shake. I checked my bag, my folder, nothing. This was the only copy. And then, from across the room, I saw Amber watching me. She wasn't smiling this time. She was just waiting. Like she wanted to see what I do. I knew it was her. I didn't have proof, but I didn't need it. For a split second, I considered telling the stage manager. Maybe they could delay my set until I found my real music. But then I heard my mom's voice in my head. The people who clap the loudest for you in public aren't always the ones who cheer for you in private. Remember that. No, I wasn't going to give Amber the satisfaction. I shoved the Sabotage sheet music aside. I'd been practicing for months. I didn't need it. The show started, and one by one, the acts went on. A dance group, a juggler, a comedy duo. The crowd was loud and warm, cheering for everyone. Then, halfway through the lineup, it was Amber's turn. She strutted on stage like she owned it, launching into her pop medley with perfect confidence. The audience ate it up, singing along, clapping in time. At the surprise ending, she belted out a high note that made the theater erupt in applause. I stood in the wings, my heart pounding. Not from nerves, though they were definitely there, but from something hotter, sharper. I knew exactly what she wanted. For the audience to see her, remember her, and barely pay attention to me. But I wasn't going to let that happen. When the MC announced my name, my legs felt heavy as I walked to the piano. The stage lights were blinding, and for a moment, All I could see were shadows in the crowd. I took a deep breath. Hi, I said into the mic, my voice steady. This is an original song. It's about finding the courage to stop hiding. The first notes rang out, warm and familiar under my fingers. I played from memory, letting the music carry me. Every word came from the place inside me I'd kept locked away for years, the part that was tired of being invisible. Halfway through, I dared a glance at the audience. They weren't whispering. They weren't distracted. They were listening. In the front row, I saw my mom with tears in her eyes. In the wings, I saw Amber, arms crossed, her smile gone. By the final chorus, something had shifted inside me. This wasn't about Amber anymore. It wasn't about proving her wrong or making the school notice me. It was about proving to myself that I deserved to take up space. When the last note faded, there was a heartbeat of silence, and then the applause hit me like a wave. People were on their feet. Some were cheering my name. I stood up from the bench, my hands trembling, not from fear this time, but from the rush of knowing I'd done it. I'd stepped into the light, and I hadn't burned. As I walked off stage, Amber brushed past me. Nice job, she said softly, but her eyes told a different story. For the first time, I didn't care what she thought. The applause was still ringing in my ears as I stepped backstage. People I barely knew patted my shoulder, telling me how amazing and unexpected I was. The quiet girl they'd walked past in the hallways for years had just filled the auditorium with a voice they didn't know existed. I should have been floating, but my feet were heavy. Amber was waiting near the costume racks, pretending to scroll through her phone. When she finally looked up, her expression was unreadable. Nice job out there, she said flatly. Crowds seemed to like it. There was no "I'm proud of you." No hug. No sparkle in her voice. Just a statement, as if she were talking about the weather. Thanks, I replied, just as flat. For the rest of the night, we stayed in separate corners of the backstage area. I watched the final acts perform, still feeling the echo of my own performance in my chest. When the winners were announced, I didn't even hear my name until the people around me started clapping again. Second place. Amber got third. On paper, it didn't mean much, just a small trophy and a gift card to a coffee shop. But the look on her face when my name was called first, before hers, was the kind of thing you couldn't fake. She smiled for the audience, of course, hugged me in front of everyone. But when her arm went around my shoulders, I could feel how tense she was. Later, as we left the auditorium, I found my real sheet music stuffed inside my backpack. No note. No explanation. Just there. I didn't need a confession to know exactly what had happened. The following Monday, everything felt different. People stopped me in the halls to tell me they loved my song. A few even asked if I'd written anything else. My English teacher invited me to perform at the spring assembly. But with every compliment, I caught Amber's eyes on me, tight-lipped, watchful. She didn't walk with me to class anymore. At lunch, she sat farther down the table. Conversations between us became short, clipped. By Wednesday, the whispers started again. Only this time, they weren't about me. She's so jealous, someone said in the hallway. I heard she tried to mess with Lena's sheet music. Another voice whispered. I didn't start the rumors. I didn't need to. People noticed things. They remembered how she'd accidentally taken my music weeks before. They remembered her odd comments about my song. The pieces were falling into place without me saying a word. That Friday, she finally cornered me by the lockers. Why are people saying I sabotaged you? She demanded. I shrugged. Maybe because you did. Her eyes flashed. I was your friend. I helped you. You tried to stop me before I even started. I cut in, my voice shaking, not from fear, but from years of swallowing words I should have said sooner. You didn't want me on that stage unless I was standing behind you. That's not friendship, Amber. That's control. For a second, I thought she might yell. But instead, she smirked, The same smirk I'd seen when she held my sheet music hostage in the cafeteria. "You think you're special now?" she said quietly. "Enjoy it while it lasts." She walked away without looking back. Losing her wasn't easy. For years, she'd been my person. But the truth was, the friendship had cracks long before the talent show, cracks I'd ignored because I was afraid of being alone. Turns out, being alone was nothing compared to standing beside someone who didn't want to see you grow. I kept playing music. I joined the school's music club, wrote new songs, and even performed again at the spring assembly. People still talked about my talent show performance months later, not because I won second place, but because they hadn't expected me. And maybe that was the point. I wasn't the quiet girl anymore. I wasn't invisible. I didn't belong to anyone's shadow. One afternoon in late spring, I was leaving school when I saw Amber across the parking lot laughing with a new group of friends. She caught my eye for half a second before looking away. There was no anger in me anymore, just clarity. Because the thing about stepping into the light is, once you felt it, you can't go back to the dark just to make someone else comfortable. And I wasn't going to hide again. Not for her. Not for anyone.